It is my pleasure, yes sir, right now to call to the stage Mr. Jacob Malatse, who is the Director of Electrical and Chemical Engineering within the Department of Employment and Labor. I would love for everyone, please, after the lovely break, to please help me in welcoming Mr. Malatse warmly to the podium. Mr. Malatse. Thank you, sir.
Well, I hope that it's still morning.
Yes.
Still morning, and thank you so much for inviting us to this special occasion, the great occasion, the first ever in Africa to have the Expo on lift, escalator, and passenger conveyor. And also just in absentia to thank our minister to grace this occasion. This is indeed a great occasion with regards to the industry of lifts, escalator, and passenger conveyor. I have got a presentation that you will see. I might not go through everything, but normally when I do presentations, I don't like to look at the slides. I don't like to go through the slides, but I will do that here and there in honor of the people that has helped me prepare this presentation. Really, let me first start by thanking the program director.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. You did very well this morning. And we thank her to pick you up, the right person. Yeah. And also thanks to Anita. Thank you so much for, I don't see your hubby, is he around? Okay, somewhere here. Thanks to you, thanks to him. And thanks to all the committee that you had. Segren is here. Thank you, sir, for working in the background, sometimes getting everything right. We want to talk about the lifts in South Africa and what has happened in terms of the regulatory space. The regulations were published in 2010 and the guidelines were published in 2015, and a schedule of standards is under review. I think we are at the right time or at the cutting edge of what is happening in the world in terms of lifts, escalator, and passenger conveyor. I think there's huge opportunities for everyone. Things has happened in the world. It's happened in America, in Asia, it has happened in Europe, but now it's happening here in Africa. With regards to development, there's huge opportunities. Many people are talking about how depressed the economy is. No, I don't talk about a depressed economy. I'm talking about opportunities that are out there coming. And I think this expo is an opportunity to make people start to see what is happening and what's going to happen. And we've got great speakers that are coming here. But we in South Africa, we are now laying a foundation of what is going to happen in terms of this industry in Africa. And that is why we had to do these regulations about 10 years ago, because we were anticipating what is happening. It was actually before the IPPs came, because we knew that IPPs are coming. IPPs are independent power producers. Okay. IPPs, independent power producers. So for you to develop the whole economy, you need to have electricity, you need to have lifts to be able to export people and transport people within the buildings that are going to be built. Some of them are existing. This place, Sandton, used to be called the richest square, what is that square?
Square mile.
Square mile. And you can see the expansion. Now we go up till the Mall of Africa. So you can see that it's no more a square mile. And so what we're doing here is actually a build-on to what is already happening in Africa. So we as a Department of Labor, we have promulgated the necessary regulation to make sure that things are safe, things are compliant, things are doing well. So we've done the guidelines. There is the guidelines that were done in 2015. I don't know what's Mr. Munyaki. Is Mr. Munyaki around here? If he's not here, he will be here. And he is also busy with the review of the standards. Some of the standards, they deal with inspection and tests. So working very close with the stakeholders and also working with SABS to make sure that the right standards are done. These are some of the shifts. In the past, we used to say lifts must be inspected every 36 months. And then when we changed the regulation, we said we're moving from 36 months because there's a need to make sure that these lifts are safe and they're compliant. And that we make sure that inspectors within the inspection authorities are right close to the lifts. So we said from 36 months to 24 months. We're talking about inspection of safety gears annually. And we have introduced what I call the third-party organization, which is the AIAs. This is one body that is very, very important in the whole regulatory framework to make sure that inspections and tests are done correctly and they're done at the right time. We've also incorporated more standards in the regulations, and we've also moved the goods hoists that was in the driven machine regulations right into the new regulations. We have a couple of challenges in the industry, or we had a couple of challenges, but we are ready to address some of these things. In KZN, we did have some dysfunctional hijacked buildings, and there was the challenge with regards to low maintenance, but that is being addressed as we speak right now. We also have what I call, when I talked about the IPP, these are the lifts within the wind farms. IPPs is independent power producers. We've got some that are doing it through photovoltaics, which is through the solar panels. But now we also have what we call wind farms. You'll have a lot of wind farms having rotors and then generating electricity through the wind. Within that wind farm, or within that one wind farm, you'll find that there's a lift that is moving up and down to transport people that are checking those towers to ensure that there is maintenance. But you people that are in the inspection and tests or in the maintenance arena of lifts, these are some of the opportunities that has come into the industry. Okay, and more is still coming. And that is why we don't have to talk gloom. There is more that is coming. There are also people that are applying for exemptions because maybe their lifts is not 100% complying with South African standards, but they comply with European standards or the Eastern standard. Then they come and talk to us. They are accommodated, and we also talk to the standard developers so that we can then review our standards. What is a challenge is also capacity. Capacity in terms of expertise, in terms of competence. This is one of the expertise. But I am glad that we have people that have started with the training of new inspectors, new experts, new professionals in the industry. And we need to develop more and train more. The other challenges is the aging of equipment itself. Out there is still old lifts, there is still old escalators that needs to be replaced. and is going to present opportunities for many people that are coming from outside to begin to explore this market and then bring new lift into the fore. One other thing is that we do have end users of lifts who are not directly or actively involved. We want to encourage them to come to the fore and become stakeholders that plays the game openly and active. This is some of the statistics that we have. If you can look at that, the statistics is the number of lifts, escalators in South Africa. As the Department of Labor, we register lifts, we register escalators. So this is some of the statistics. This is the inspectors that we have in the Department of Labor that does inspection of lifts. We have about 9 inspectors throughout, 9 specialists in the whole country. Every province has 1 specialist, and then we have about 13 principal inspectors. We also have about 85 inspectors that are looking countrywide to the safety of lifts in South Africa. One of the things that we try and do is to continue to consult with our stakeholders so that we make sure that we're all speaking the same language, we're all in the same page with regards to development of legislation in terms of new equipment coming in, and making sure that also in terms of standards, we do amend our standards when the time comes. We are in constant discussions with the associations in South Africa. We had a workshop in 2018 about the state of new installations, the development of people joining the industry, inspection bodies that must switch unsafe lifts, and the first AIA workshop was in 31st of July 2019. And we said there is a need for us to have a code of practice for AIAs. AIAs are the third-party inspection bodies in South Africa. This is something very, very new in South Africa. But the AIAs that we are developing here and approving and accrediting in South Africa, these are AIA that will be equal to any third-party organization in the world. In the world, they call them notified bodies. They call AIA notified bodies. But the AIAs in South Africa, they are equal to any AIA or any third body in the world, the notified bodies. The likes of the TUVs, Reinhardt. If you are an AIA in South Africa, you are equal to them. Why? Because we're using the very same standards that is being used everywhere in the world, which is ISO 17020 for the accreditation of third-party organizations. So if you are an AIA in South Africa, you can compete everywhere in the world. But why did we do that as South Africa? We do that also to prepare for the development that is coming in Africa, so that when you move into Africa, you are acceptable and you are able to operate safely. I used to be sitting on the board of SANAS, the South African National Accreditation System. SANAS has also helped in terms of the development of an accreditation body within SADC. And now the other move was done in terms of AU. We've got what we call SATCAS, we've got AFREC. AFREC is the body that now is going to look for the AIAs in Africa. That's AFREC. So if you are accredited in South Africa, you will be accepted in SADC, or you are accepted in SADC. If you are accredited in South Africa, you are accepted in Africa because of the framework of South Africa that has been, of Africa that has been developed. SANAS is a member of ILEC, IAF, and AFREC. These are international bodies. IAF and ILEC is international. AFREC is African. We've introduced AIA in 2012, and accreditation is about the system. The system that I've talked about, ISO 17020. AIAs are third-party inspection bodies. Our industry is maturing. We have credibility of records. Inspection body registered is about 18 right now, and the requirements for accreditation, you can be able to look at our website, but one of them is that you need to have a lift inspector, and then it says also you need to have equipment that are calibrated, you need to have a management system, and you need to keep records as well. Let's look at the maintenance and installations. Availability of lift mechanic, they say is questionable. In terms of the regulations, you need to keep records of your lifts. You need to keep records of your escalators. You need to keep records of your passenger conveyor system. You also need to keep the records of the goods hoist, because now they've moved from the driven machine regulations into the lift regulations. It's also important that you continuously develop your maintenance personnel so that they know the new equipment. New equipment now, they are running on electronics. They are running on digital. You need to train your people in terms of programming, in terms of electronics, and all that. We also need to encourage companies to share information. We must not hoard information. Let's share information, and when we share information, we can now grow as an industry. I want to give you a chance to take a photo of that snippet. The Code of Practice for Inspections and Testing is being developed. So as we speak now, the experts are sitting and developing a code of practice for inspection and tests. They have taken certain annexes and they are developing one code of practice to ensure that all type of lifts, all type of escalators, there is only one code, and that code will work in South Africa. And I tell you, that code will also be used in Africa. We also published a code of practice of lifts in wind turbines. That has been published already. And we also have SANS 581 to 520 and 50, fully effective from the 20th to the 29th of November 2019. So by that time, those codes will be enforceable. These are some of the short term: the registration of maintenance providers, deregistration of lifts which are not in use, strengthen inspections within the Department of Labor, but also strengthen inspection of lifts, especially reports from inspection services providers. The registration of goods hoists, a management system that we are putting in place in the Department of Labor to ensure that all the lifts that are registered in the country, we've got a very up-to-date database. Long-term, lift inspectors to countersign the commissioning report. We all know that once one lift are commissioned, the report will say this lift is full for use. And therefore, you need qualified people, qualified inspectors to be able to certify that this lift is fit for purpose. And therefore, the lift inspectors will then countersign the commissioning reports. The inspection service providers will have to submit annual report to the Department of Employment and Labor. And the Department of Labor also will be embarking in auditing of the third-party organization, which is the AIAs. We as the Department of Labor will ensure that our case management system is used and there is compliance in the country. Align the regulations to address software verification issues. As I've said, that now lifts are using software, lifts are using electronics and all that. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that even our regulations are up to date, aligned with the fourth industrial revolution, aligned with all the new digital requirements, the new electronic requirements that are coming. Yes, with that, I would like to say thank you all, and may we have a great conference going forward. Thank you.